What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Slow Your Roll. I'm Cody. Today I just wanted to touch on some of the things I found in DC20 that I thought were really fun, that have like fleshed out rules, and it's just like skill actions. And that's a thing that already exists in a lot of games or whatever, but the way that the system was kind of like built around these as functional actions, and the fact that it's like an action point system, gives you a lot of cool reasons to use them. But before we get into that, I just wanted to point out, we did a video recently related to DC20 and got quite a few new subscribers compared to what we've already had. And I just wanted to say thank you. If you did recently subscribe, that is awesome. It's huge for us. It makes a really big difference. And it's just like a lot of motivation to just keep going and making bigger and better things. Speaking of bigger and better things, I also wanted to throw a quick heads up and let you guys know, all you new subscribers or whatever else, that we have a bunch of new gameplay videos in the works already. We have more videos on character builds, class efficiency, tactics, like a bunch more cool stuff coming for DC20. And a lot of those videos we will definitely do our best to make system agnostic as well, wherever possible. So now that that's all out of the way, let's get into this. So here I've got the PDF pulled up of the alpha. This is 0.7 alpha. So technically by the time this releases, it'll be in beta already. So it'll be 0.8 at that point. But not much of this should change, if anything. So it should still be very applicable for the foreseeable future anyway. So anyway, I'm just going to go through these, the skill-based actions portion. This is on page 43 of the alpha 0.7 PDF at least, and just kind of talk about them as we're going. So here we go. So a creature can take the following skill actions on its turn. You can analyze a creature. You can calm animal, combat insight, conceal, feint, intimidate, investigate, jump, medicine, mounted defense, pass through, or search. So we're basically just going to go through those, and kind of as we're talking about them, I just want to point out the things that I think are impressive or interesting or cool uses of these or whatever else, right? So there is analyze creature. So you can spend one action point to attempt to recall or discern some information about a creature that you can see or hear, which is, I thought, was important. Like, this isn't something that you have to do in combat where you have to see the creature. If you can even hear the sounds they're making, that's enough to justify being able to do this check specifically. So anyway, when you do so, you're going to make a DC10 knowledge check, which, to point out, is pretty low. DC10 is relatively easy to hit, especially if it's a check you've got some skill points in already. And speaking of that, that's actually something real quick that's really important. So all of your attack checks should be, so like level 1, your attack check should be around +4. It should be like your prime plus your combat mastery, which should give you a 4. If you have a skill mastery in a skill, like perhaps one of the knowledge checks that are related to this creature, then you can have up to a +5, which is actually higher than an attack check. So some of these you by default can do with a +5 at level 1, and even higher actually in some cases for specific classes or whatever class features, talents, whatever you might have. But anyway, the base check could be a +5 for these instead of just a +4 with the normal attack checks, which is pretty cool too. So anyway, when you're analyzing this creature, you make a DC10 knowledge check. On a success, you learn a piece of lore about the creature, which is fun for you and the DM, really. This gives you something like, if it's a creature you're interested in analyzing in the first place, this will give you something where the DM can actually like, well, it's this interesting beast that you've only heard rumors of, and it's, it tends to live in like wet climates and everything else. Like, it could describe maybe various things the DM could throw your way for the next place you'll be traveling into. Maybe it says that these animals are known to only live in caves, but you're outside and you're like, oh, well, maybe there's a cave nearby then, or something like that. But a success each 5, so every time you beat the check by 5, another DC20 thing, that's pretty cool. So success each 5, you learn one creature's statistics. So this gets a little bit more analytical and even like meta knowledge a little bit. You learn their physical defense, mental defense, attacks, abilities, resistances, vulnerabilities, immunities, etc. So you can learn a bunch of different stuff that way too, which is kind of fun. Like, if you're a big nerd character, this is something that'd just be fun to do narratively anyway. So it's pretty cool. Next up, calm animal. You can spend 1 AP to attempt to beguile a beast that can see or hear you. Again, you can do this, they can see or hear you. Doesn't have to be right there in the room with you. So make your animal check contested by the target's charisma save. A lot of times if it's an animal, it's probably not going to have that high of charisma. So this will be helpful to you as well, especially if you're already good with your animal skill. Success, the animal is taunted by you for 1 minute. So this means that basically this animal is like pretty much has to attack you, or it'll have disadvantage on anything else it does. So this is a cool way to get the thing's attention. But the cool thing is right here, if you succeed with a 5 over, it's also impaired. If you succeed by 10, this animal is charmed, which is incredible. Like, that's such a fun benefit. I can already imagine tons of druids and, you know, even like nature wizards or whatever, druids, rangers, all those. This would be a very fun thing to use in the right circumstance. And one more thing I wanted to point out with these skill checks, you've got 4 action points, right? And if you're like, man, I really don't know what to do with my other action points, if I attack again, I'm gonna have disadvantage or whatever because the multiple check penalty. These things avoid, well, they don't avoid the multiple check penalty, but they'll help you to sparse out your action points in a way that, you know, like you can make this check after you've attacked and it won't be at disadvantage and, you know, stuff like that. Because what else are you going to use an animal check for in the middle of combat, except for this awesome skill here, Calm Animal. So that's cool. But anyway, moving back up, Combat Insight. You can spend 1 AP to attempt to discern the course of actions a creature might take on its turn. Make an insight check contested by the target's trickery or influence check. And it's that creature's choice. The good news is trickery is agility and influence is insight. So if this is something that you think might be too strong, the GM has kind of the option there. It's like, you know, if the creature might be better at one or the other kind of thing. So if you succeed on this, you learn the target's emotional state and whether it plans to make an attack, cast a spell, or flee combat during its next turn. So even with that, if you're playing a support class and you're like, man, I know this creature is really dangerous, I need to know what it's going to do next, like, you can do this. That's cool. Even better, if you succeed it by 5, you know who the creature is likely to target with a harmful ability if they're going to attack. So then you know exactly who to go out of your way to protect, or you can even ready actions to try to throw their action off as it's taking place at that point. But a success with 10, you know which ability the creature plans to use as well. Could be even more helpful to lock down the battlefield in a way that is beneficial to you or your team. Next, we have Conceal. You can spend 1 AP to attempt to hide an object on yourself or in nearby foliage, debris, or decor to render it hidden. You make a contested trickery check against the passive awareness of creatures that can see you. So again, this is something that like, this is specifically creatures that can see you, which leads me to believe that like a creature has to see you even to be able to, you know, for you to have to make a check to be something concealed for the most part, which is kind of nice. Given the circumstances, you know, that could change, I'm sure. But, so yeah, you make your trickery check against their passive awareness, and if you succeed, the object is hidden from any creature whose passive awareness you beat. So that's pretty cool, especially if you're intentionally a sneaky character. If you're a rogue, there's like the concealable weapons and stuff like that. You can use this to your advantage to get a leg up in combat as well. Moving on, we have Feint. This one I like a lot. I've played the Commander a couple times, and I really love the Commander class. It's just incredibly fun martial support class. So Feint works really well in the right circumstances for a Commander or any other support role. But you can spend 1 AP to make a trickery check contested by the target's insight check. When you succeed, the next attack against that target before the start of your next turn has advantage and deals +1 damage. So this one's pretty good. If there's a time that you know, so let's say you just want to attack a lot in your turn, right? Or at least get 2 attacks off. To make those straight rolls, it's going to be 1 action point to attack, and then because it's the multiple check penalty, you'd have to spend an action point to attack again, and then an action point to give it advantage. So you're going to have to spend 3 action points to attack twice with straight rolls, right? So alternatively, if you think you can beat whatever the creature is in this contest, then you can spend your first AP to attack, you can spend 1 AP to make this trickery check, and if you succeed, then the 3rd AP to attack again does have advantage. So you're already back at, you know, where you were, spending the 3 AP to attack twice with flat rolls. and it deals +1 damage. So there's like a little bit of a risk here. You could do 2 attacks intentionally with more damage and using the same amount of action points as just attacking twice anyway and giving the second one advantage for a straight roll. So that's a pretty cool thing. Also, this sets up some more really cool things for the commander, right? If you set this up on an enemy and then also use Commander's Call to help someone attack that enemy, then that person that's attacking the enemy is getting double advantage and +2 damage technically. So that'd be really fun and, you know, a pretty cool thing too if that works out. Next up is Intimidate. You can spend 1 action point to attempt to intimidate a creature that can see or hear you, yet again. Make an intimidation check contested by the target's charisma save. So again, given the right creatures, you might know that, you know, a lot of animals, a lot of beasts and things like that are probably going to have lower charisma. Maybe even kind of like you know, a lot of dumb, evil creatures are probably going to have lower charisma by default too, which is pretty cool. So you can intimidate them this way. And if you succeed, the target is intimidated by you, which kind of debuffs that creature as well for you and your teammates. And then you've got Investigate. This one's pretty straightforward. If you know that something is hidden, you can spend an action point to try to just like look around. I'm actually not going to read through all that one. That's pretty straightforward. It makes sense. It works like you expect it to. And if you succeed, you know, you find the location of the thing or object, you know, whatever. And that one's pretty cool. The only thing I might note that's interesting about this is that you can specifically understand a mechanism with this check. So like you can attempt to discern the functionality of a mechanism like a trap or whatever else, secret door. And that's, you know, that could be helpful in the middle of combat, especially if you know that you could throw someone into a trap and how to activate it or something like that too, which would be, you know, fun. Jump, it works like you expect. 1 action point, you make a check, you can jump. If you do really well, you can jump further. It's good. Medicine. This one's pretty interesting. You don't have to be a healer technically to be able to heal someone in combat using this medicine check. You can spend 1 AP to touch a creature to like tend to its wounds, and you have to make a DC10 medicine check. If you succeed, you stop its bleeding or stabilize it, which is pretty cool. But if you succeed with 5 over, and each 5 over, the creature actually gains a temporary hit point, which is pretty awesome. That could be really helpful in certain situations. Mounted defense is also pretty interesting. You can spend 1 AP to maneuver a mount that you're riding to avoid danger. So that's kind of a nice little, it's almost like it is almost like a maneuver. It feels like a maneuver, but it's not attached to any attacks or anything else. So that does make sense with mounted defense. Pass through is kind of nice and it'd be kind of specific. You know, this one's very case specific, but you can spend an action point to try to like move through a space with another occupied creature that's hostile. And basically if this works out right, then you can kind of move through their area. It'd be really important for, you know, like a bottlenecked hallway or something like that. And for the last one, Search, you can spend 1 action point to attempt to locate 1 or more hidden creatures and concealed objects within your line of sight. This one is pretty cool. It's again kind of case specific, but it's nice that it's available, especially if you're going to be going through a dungeon and you're already in kind of like the middle of this combat thing, and you're like, man, I'm sure that there are people in the next room or something like that. I'm sure that they're aware. Right now they're technically hidden to me or whatever else. You could possibly use this and maybe find creatures in the next room, creatures that are waiting in the hallway, waiting in corners, bushes, whatever else to ambush you that you wouldn't otherwise know about, which is pretty cool. You can find hidden creatures, or you can even find hidden objects, which might end up, you know, revealing more like trap mechanisms or whatever else. So these can be kind of helpful. And if you go on from there, there's a bunch more cool stuff with like advanced actions, tells you how to do your held actions, reactions, all that stuff. So that's cool too. But yeah, I just wanted to point out the fact that the way that the system's built with DC20, these skill-based actions are really cool. The biggest things with them is like you can set up some awesome combos. You can avoid multiple check penalties with things you would normally be doing, like attacking. You can even bolster your friends or your own attacks with some of these, which is really cool and interesting. You can kind of like use a lot of these for utility and even like battlefield control to some degree. You can actually make some of these checks with a +5 by default instead of just the attack check with a +4, so it can be a higher check even. And most of all, the thing I've been finding really fun is that with a lot of these, you can do some really cool team-based synergy, especially if you kind of think about tactically how to ready your actions ahead of time for some of the things that are, you know, unveiled through these checks. But yeah, it's a fun thing. It's a fun thing. It's just kind of part of the system. Like I said, it's not completely exclusive by any means to DC20, but it's a fun way to bake this in, and it feels good. I like it. I've used several of these in playtesting, and it's just a lot of fun. So I highly recommend you check it out. And yeah, I just want to make this quick. So if you guys like this, let me know in the comments. If you have other ideas or things you want to see fleshed out into videos, absolutely drop them down. Let us know. Like I said, I really appreciate we really appreciate, me and Alex both, really appreciate all the new subscribers. If you guys got stuff you want to see, I mean, I already told you some of our plans, but if you got stuff you want to see, drop in the comments and we will do our best to make it happen. This has been really fun. We love this whole kick with DC20. It's so awesome. So yeah, thank you. Bye.